here we are, Godzilla x Kong, or Godzilla times Kong, multiplied by Kong, Godzilla crisscross Kong, Godzilla by Kong, perhaps? Godzilla X Factor Kong. Okay, I'm done. But in all honesty, what does that X even mean? Does anyone know? Whatever, who cares? I hated this movie. It's really bad. I'm just going to be straight about it. Like, subscribe, comment, and tell your friends if you like the content. If not, that's fine too. Your choice. If you're new here, I post reviews and other stuff a few times a week, so check out the channel. I've done a whole slew of reviews of various movies and shows so far, as well as a retrospective series for the MCU. Anyway, let's get this over with. Let's dive into Godzilla X-Men Kong, A New Empire. In all fairness to this movie, monster films are difficult to make and make interesting. Once the gimmick of shrouding the monster for a big reveal is up, you've sort of shown all of your cards. Warner Bros. Is heavily pushing this franchise, and I genuinely feel for any writer that signs on to one of these movies because it has to be a tireless job trying to conjure up new ideas for this franchise. Because every movie since King of the Monsters has been the same. A new Titan threat arises, Kong or Godzilla, or both, must overcome an embarrassing defeat early in the film to rise up against it. And the humans serve absolutely no purpose to the story, and that still rings true with Godzilla train crossing Kong as well. The new threat in this movie is the Scar King, a violent, tyrannical ruler of a lost kingdom of apes hidden deep within the Hollow Earth. He's basically a thinner, orange, balding version of Kong, who controls an ancient ice-breathing titan named Shimu. Shimu injures Kong and he escapes tail between his legs. In the end, Kong gets a bionic arm like Iron Man or some shit, and teams up with Godzilla, Mothra, and an adolescent ape named Suko to defeat Scar King. Shimo switches sides in the end and assists them, and the human characters just sort of meander in the background and do nothing the whole time. What was their purpose actually? I honestly can't even remember. I was checked out of this movie after like the first 20 minutes. To be honest, I stopped caring about these movies in this franchise after Skull Island. And, in my opinion, that was the last decent entry. And look, I understand why we need the human characters because the audience needs some sort of conduit to establish some sort of personal connection to. That's why monster movies are so complicated. Because we can't sustain any sort of emotional connection with a giant rampaging lizard, so the writers utilize human characters as sort of like an adapter. The human characters are able to help us understand the monster's intentions, emotions, actions, etc. The issue is that the human characters haven't served any sort of relevant purpose in this franchise since Kong Skull Island. They don't do anything that makes any logical sense for one, and two, they don't do anything that services the plot in any significant way at all. These movies at this point are on par with the Fast and Furious franchise. They're just giant, bombastic, mind-numbing CGI fuckfests. Just take the humans out at this point, honestly. Gia is the only human character who serves any sort of relevant purpose to the plot, I suppose. She has like a telekinetic connection to Kong and leads the rest of the human team to a lost tribe of her native people. Turns out the tribe was sending a telepathic distress call, I think. God, this movie is nonsense. There's like a prophecy foretelling the coming battle between Godzilla, Kong, and the Scar King, because Scar King tried to conquer the surface world before, and Gia is the chosen one, set to resurrect Mothra because apparently Mothra is the key to ending the coming conflict. I can't remember why, honestly. God, it's so ridiculous. But yeah, so outside of Gia, the rest pretty much do nothing. Bernie's back, remember him? The conspiracy podcaster from King of the Monsters. He keeps getting brought back for some reason. No offense to Brian Tyree Henry, great actor, but goddamn, get away from this franchise before you ruin your career. I get it though, the payday is probably just incredible. Anyway, Bernie gets brought back to decipher this distress call that the Hollow Earth outpost picks up. Bernie does this, not the hundreds of biologists or zoologists or linguists or just all-around scientists that Monarch has under their payroll. No, it was this podcaster that for some reason they keep including in these scripts. Then the writers try to make you care about Dr. Andrews possibly losing Gia back to her original tribe, and you just don't care at all. Oh, and Dan Stevens is in this, playing this goofy Titan vet named Trapper. He's pretty much useless too. I cannot believe this movie got made. Look, if you enjoy giant kaiju fights, good for you. For me, I can only watch so many giant CGI monster fights in one movie before I just get absolutely bored. But there are a lot of those fights in this movie for those that are interested, and I will say the CGI is pretty good for the most part. Another issue this franchise suffers from as a whole, and I actually have to give some credit to Adam Does Movies for this, because he's the first critic I actually heard talk about this, and he nailed it. The evolution of technology in this universe is mind-boggling. Remember Godzilla 2014? It was modern day, real life, believable. Technology was comprehensible. Then we jump back to the 70s for Skull Island, still very believable, 1970s standard army artillery. Then King of the Monsters, a mere few years after Godzilla in that universe's timeline. And now we have massive flying Monarch bases. Then of course Godzilla v Kong with Mechagodzilla, the introduction of hovercrafts. It's wild. How did we get here? I get this franchise is about giant fake monsters, but it's lost all credibility and believability at such a rapid pace. Man, I miss Godzilla 2014. I actually really enjoyed that movie. I know a lot of people were upset because Godzilla wasn't in it that much, but that's the point. That's why it's good. The humans are the focal point of that story, which is better for the audience. It's a monster survival movie. Think about the first Jurassic Park. The most interesting aspect is the slow reveal of the prehistoric animals that they created. You tease the audience, you don't give them everything right off the bat. You make them wait so the reveal is grand and satisfying. Now those damn monsters in this universe are just popping out of the woodwork. I don't know, does anyone like these movies anymore? I sure don't. I guess my final verdict is Godzilla X-Files Kong is bad. Actually worse than bad, it's awful. It's embarrassingly bad. It's so boring, nonsensical, and it drags. My god, does it drag. And they want to make more of these, good god. Just imagine. I gamble 2 years' time, we'll see a Godzilla Kong Fast and Furious crossover in space. Cinema might be dead.